Welcome to Franchising Stronger Together. I'm your host, Red Boswell, president of the International Franchise Professionals Group, IFPG. We're here to talk franchising, especially around how franchise leaders are responding to the crazy times we're living through. We're joined today by a great friend and certainly a legend in franchising, Lance Freeman. Lance is president of franchise development for all Exponential fitness brands, Exponential brands. Lance, welcome to the call today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Red. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my friend. And I can't tell because we had to close the window to give your face just the right light. But you are in the Phoenix area?
I'm in Phoenix, yeah. We are approaching, I think, going to be 100 degrees today.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah.
Rubbing into the guys up north.
Always right about, Memorial Day. That's when it hits. You can pretty bank on it.
And how has it hit for you and your family? I know you've got some kiddos. I don't see them running around, but if they do, it'll be an extra bonus for this video.
Yeah. They probably won't be. They're out and about. They got an 11 and 13-year-old. Thanks for asking. No, we've been good. Kind of finding silver linings. They actually just finished the online school, that they moved to after COVID-19, hit. And so now they're out, and excited about that. But no, we've been finding, I'm kind of a half full guy and finding silver linings. So dinners at home and, cutting each other's hair and fun things like that, but it's been good. And, we've kind of found some things, I think, out of this that we, are figuring out, hey, I think we're going to keep doing that, even after this is all kind of gone, so we've found a lot of positives, with it.
Well, if they're like my teenagers and my 13-year-old daughter, like you have, they want to do homeschool for good now. So it's like, nah, we're a couple months is good enough.
Yeah, mom's not okay with that.
No. Well, I have a surprise for you. Yes, I have.
Yes.
I have it right there. Yoga 6 shirt. Thank you.
Yes. Wear it proud. I love it. Oh, it looks good on you already.
It gives me, when I'm at the gym, because I'm there like twice a day, you could probably tell.
Obviously.
I get mega cred. A little nod when I'm wearing this.
Oh yeah, you'll get some major street cred on
that. Not to mention my street cred stretch lab hat.
Oh yeah.
It went right on like I was born with it.
Lance, I love it.
And up plugging that. Now we know what Exponential is. So tell us, what is Exponential Brands? Last I heard, last count was 8 brands. Have you added any more? Give a little insight into how big you are, the brands, and maybe even the investment levels, so we can really put it in perspective compared to some other brands that might be listening.
Sure. Yeah, I could even give you a little timeline. It's been pretty amazing. I was, in fact, we had our CEO Anthony Geisler on a call earlier, and it was kind of fun. He's actually kind of fairly tight with Pitbull because Pitbull did our convention a couple of years ago. He just came out with this song, about rising up, in this time and not succumbing to fear. But he did a whole kind of video on it, and it was pretty good time. But I met up with Anthony about 5 years ago. This guy is just an incredible, man and gentleman, leader, visionary. But I met him up when he was he was buying Club Pilates, a little brand with a few dozen units at that point. And fast forward now, it's been about 5 years. We're just short of about 4,000 licenses awarded globally, and we've got 8 brands, and we've got about just short of 2,000 units that we're operating, pre-COVID-19 with doors open nationally. So we're really, at this point, I would say, any way you slice it, the largest boutique fitness company in the world with the 8 modalities collectively, and really kind of driving at this kind of XPass opportunity where our members can really attend any of our verticals and really be in the best brands and the best verticals in boutique fitness, and that's how we win. But it's been a neat journey with him and just an incredible operator, even especially now during this period. And I've had a lot of fun with him along the way as well, just working with him. He's great. We have what we call kind of our core 4, and then emerging 4. The core 4, we look at yoga as a core vertical. We look at Pilates as a core vertical, spin as a core vertical, and bar as a core vertical. And so the emerging verticals, are row, dance, run, and stretch. And so those are other, so we get stretch lab, row house, AKT Gantz, and stride. So those are our four emerging verticals. There you go. And I always like to say, those core four weren't always core, or emerging not too long ago. So it's been kind of a neat evolution and watching it happen, especially with our brands.
So everyone knows, correct me if I'm wrong, fitness got hit big time between the eyes. I mean, closing down. Did you have any that stayed open?
We had one store out of almost 2,000 that actually stayed open in Nebraska. Anthony has proclaimed Nebraska our favorite state in the country now. Okay. But no, we were forced to close all of our doors within a matter of a couple of weeks once this hit, like most retailers were. It was largely governed by the governors and state requirements. So had to shut the doors, but we didn't stop doing business though.
Well, all right, so tell us more about that. You got hit really hard. You shut down nearly everything. What was the pivots?
Yeah, we were kind of fortunate. I've talked to some of my other friends in the industry, and some folks had initiatives that were maybe on the agenda, but weren't full force, but kind of sped those things up. We had a on-demand Go program that we've been working on for about a year. It's a digital platform where people can work out via an online platform that we've had in the works for about a year. That was scheduled for release in Q2, that got moved up to Q1. And we put a lot into it. So we were able, we basically closed our doors at 8 p.m. on one night. Opened at 5 a.m. on, in a digital world, instead of the four walls world that we're used to in the retail segment. And so that was huge. What we did was we offered all of our members across all 8 verticals, so, thousands and thousands of members, our on-demand platform, free, complimentary for 60 days if they kept their draft on. So they could continue to engage in the brand. That was really, it's interesting, the on-demand program originally was really, there's on-demand platforms, but we really were driving at it as a retention piece to keep our current members engaged in the brand when they couldn't, experience the four walls experience. And so, very timely when you think about us having to bring that to the forefront. So it's about 60% of our members kept their draft on during that period. And the other, call it almost 40% froze memberships. But what was really exciting to see was that we didn't, our member cancellation stayed flat. So we didn't have people that were saying, oh, I'm done with this. So that was telling in terms of, we knew these people were engaged in the brand, wanted to stay members of the brand, had faith that, that at some time they would come back to the brand, and that's been really positive. But
yes, they kept their draft on. That's an auto draft each month.
Yep.
And 40%, would you call it paused membership?
That's right. We call it freeze. So they paused their membership. They didn't cancel it. So as soon as we would be reopened, with the retail experience, then their draft would go back on.
And how do you see the digital that you rolled out and Nothing Flat, this virtual world? What's going to happen with that once you do open back up?
Well, it's interesting because initially, as I mentioned, it was always going to be kind of an add-on and a part of the model as a retention piece. I think it'll be a lot larger component of the business, at least, for you say kind of the next year, as we go back to opening up these stores on kind of a hybrid model where we have almost kind of 3 buckets of members. That those, it's kind of extreme. You got those that are have no fear at all. You have others that want to stay at home still and engage in that on-demand program. And you've got others that are going to kind of wait and see a little bit, So that on-demand program is going to be much more larger piece of our business as we move the model forward, kind of with this, new norm, if you will. And we'll continue to build on it. Anthony, what the beautiful thing is we have, pretty substantial resources. So he, has a kind of I call it a mini Hollywood studio where we shoot all the on-demand classes. I think within the first couple of weeks we did 350,000 views or classes, with our members, just to give you the magnitude of that,
And so these online classes, this is not led by the local coach, the local whatever leader, that they normally see each day. This is one region, one global location filming a world-class training and then disseminating it to all the locations, and then the locations send it? How does that work?
Yes and no. We have that, but one of the neat things that we were also able to do, and in a way to keep some of our instructors employed in markets around the country, was have them teach live streaming classes. And so that was a part of the on-demand Go system, so that we could keep paying our employees, keep them working, but be able to teach through the on-demand platform. So we have that, and then we also have, so they could attend that live stream. And then we also have, a log or a bank of recorded classes of just thousands of classes that we continue to refresh, and that they can just at any point, log in and get on one of those if they'd like. But if they were working, let's say a locally based studio was working with one of their instructors that they really liked, and they were teaching an on-demand class, and they could still engage with that instructor. Fascinating.
And that's something a mom and pop could absolutely never do. You've got the strength of thousands of franchisees. I've been to your corporate offices. It's a behemoth. It gives you a lot of peace when you're risking your life and your livelihood into a new opportunity. So what other, Lance, there's so much going on. You no doubt have changed communications or frequencies. Can you give the franchisors out there more insights into how you guys have just dove in headfirst to support your franchisees beyond what we just discussed?
I love it. I would say we like to call kind of that 36,000 foot headquarters that you mentioned, kind of our support center. We kind of turned it into, basically a command center and a war zone, if you will, so that we could provide really around the clock support for our Zs and our franchisees. And so I'd say just from a communications and leadership standpoint, that went up, in a big way, starting with Anthony, our CEO, holding multiple calls per week for the entire franchise community. And then obviously on a brand level, we had each of the presidents doing the same thing, because, there's nuances in each of the brands when it comes to, let's even talking about kind of the reopening process and SOPs behind that. In a stretch lab, we're going to be different from, let's say, in a cycle bar. So, a lot of communication, a lot of positive leadership, and then also a lot of what I found really, and I attended every one of them, what I found was really helpful is just continued analysis of the numbers and the data. It's great to have the positivity. It's great to have the leadership and say, here's where we're going. But when you kind of have the real data, sitting in front of you and someone explained to you, here's what's happening. We're tracking this. We're monitoring this. This is good news. This is something we're going to keep our eye on. This is something we're going to adjust to. And here's the adjustment we're going to make. That's really, peace of mind, because for, knowing that, the numbers and how things are tracking, seeing that, your member cancellations are staying flat, knowing that studios that still have draft on are averaging 15,000 a month, just on draft as in a retail business with their doors closed, things like that. And then honestly, it's not making light of the challenges that people face out there, but, trying to have a little fun while they're at it. They had a gift card competition between brands, and you'd see one kind of trying to catch another one and the other one fighting them off and things like that, that brought some team spirit to play. I felt like were really neat as well as part of that leadership piece and keeping morale up. But yes, the support was deep, from everything from whether it be helping the franchisees with their PPP or getting they're working with their landlords for rent deferrals or abatements, or launching other programs and initiatives that we're helping them with. We had three main initiatives that we're focused on really, which was continue to keep draft on, continue to keep revenues coming in, reduce expenses obviously, and retain members. I mean, that was kind of the battle cry here for the last 60 days, and we've done that, I think, really effectively.
But it sounds like if obviously revenues are down on average, but man, costs are down too. So,
that's right. That's right.
Net revenue hopefully isn't that enormously impacted. You talked about gift cards. So I heard some other franchisors talk about that. That could certainly be a savior for you when you can't open your doors. We had Tom Epstein from Franchise Payment Network on here, really sharing some best practices on that. How go deeper on the gift card idea? How's that work for you?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of prongs that I would mention. I know enough to be dangerous about it. I tell you, one part of that, which is really cool, is that Anthony didn't take a penny of that at the support center. That went all back, to the franchisees. That revenue did, which is really nice. And he did other things like that to, as a partner, with them, reduce their costs, like lowering their marketing fund, cutting that by 50%, things of that nature. But still keeping the marketing on, because we still want to get new members coming to the business model. But we've sold just short of 200,000 in gift card sales, as a part of that. And I think again, it's another area that we could really focus on to drive revenues with the doors closed. Another example, I mean, we did retail happy hours, where because we have a front half, to our business with some of that swag you were showing off earlier. So we've really upped our retail sales. Pure Barre is driving somewhere to the tune of 20% of the revenues from retail sales. And so we even started selling some of the little pieces of equipment that we have, in the studios as part of the retail opportunity. So kind of a lot of, thought went into how do we continue to drive revenues in addition to keeping that draft on more than we normally do.
Wow, the retail aspect, I hadn't even thought about that. That could be a big difference for some stores. So what about so you get 2,000-ish locations, you get at 200,000, that's easy math. Average location did 100 gift cards. I don't know what the normal month is or two, but that sounds pretty impressive. Any idea what the average gift card amount was?
I don't know what the average transaction amount was. Sorry, I'll follow up with you on that. But I don't know.
It help. And we all have heard the crazy stats around Christmas when 50% of gift cards are never, turned in or used. So that's a great idea for franchisors out there looking to make the most of this frustrating situation.
Yeah.
A lot of us are getting back open. Do you know how many of yours are back open? Any?
Oh yeah, we're back on the reopening path. As of yesterday, the update was we had 412 studios that were back open. By June 1, again, it seems like it changes daily with these governors, but based on our, what we're being allowed to open, we should have just over 1K, about 1,000 open, and we project the rest of those should be open in June. So we'll be 100%, by the end of June. But by June 1, we'll have about 1,000 open, back up and running.
Okay, great to hear.
Yeah.
Why don't we jump over to FranDev? That's an important part of any franchisor's world. You are certainly, that's your forte. We like to look at it kind of in two ways. We got those that were in process when everything hit the fan.
Yeah.
Did they freeze? Did they disappear? Did they, kind of pause? Or did they get awarded a franchise? And then we'll hit on the new pipeline. I'm curious about that.
Sure. I'd say all of it, it's kind of like those three buckets, we certainly had a few people that said, hey, I got to fall out of this right now. We had, there were some folks that lost their positions for our opportunity because it's semi-absentee. We might have people that, are in a position currently that will do this in parallel. If their position is becoming compromised, they might, put their investigation on buying a business on hold. So there were some that certainly stopped their investigation. There were some that I would say certainly continued, I'd say cautiously, and then ended up being transactions for us. And then there's a bucket that kind of hit the pause button that wanted to kind of wait and see. But we certainly, we're getting transactions done. What's interesting in that I would say our overall volume, is down because, our typical month at Exponential is going to be 70, 80 units we would award in a month. So now, it's say 30 units, right now, 30 to 40, depending on the last couple months is kind of been where it's landing. So down from where it was. But what's interesting is we are seeing now a few, I don't know a better way to put it, but just some really substantial investors coming out of the woodworks. I always kind of say there's fortunes to be made in loss during times like this, and it's interesting seeing some people come out really seeing the retail opportunity right now to be able to negotiate some long-term leases with some favorable deals and see opportunity with that. So, I mean, our average deal is like a 3-pack, Red, but I mean, we're seeing like people coming, where there's a few deals working on that are more like in the 30 unit range, so some pretty crazy stuff that you would go, wow, during pandemic, that's a surprise,
Yeah, I have heard that a number of times, believe it or not. The kind of the veterans, the folks with their low
Yep.
risk, the high risk tolerance,
Yep.
we're going to get through it. They
Yep.
know that there's value to be gained buying
Yep.
low.
Yep.
And certainly the real estate play is never a better time here in the short term.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So what about, so you're saying the new pipeline's down, or do you see the folks that are coming in, although it's down, you got folks coming in, the quality on average about the same or a little better?
I'd even say better. Yeah. I think people that are looking at it now, the pandemic's already here. So it's not something that they got, surprised with in the middle of their investigation. So if they're looking at it now, they see some opportunity in considering an opportunity during this time, and are pretty serious investigators. So we like those a lot. But yeah, I would say quality is good with those that are in the pipeline for sure. So
And that quality means a tighter time frame too, right?
that's
Typically,
right.
they're more confident, they get it, the facts are there, they can make a decision a little more comfortably and quicker.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you say this earlier? What's your average investment for one?
Yeah, I would say the range would be around 250 to we're sub 500, really across all 8. Like a stretch lab, it's a smaller footprint, so it's going into 12 to 1,500 square feet. So that's one of our lower investments. That's kind of the 250 range. The other boxes that are about 2,000 square feet, they're all kind of in that 350, 450 range for the total build out.
Right. So that's serious investors, a 3-pack, which is your kind of norm. That's $1 million. So, right.
Yeah. Well, I coach them that, everybody starts with 1. So we kind of bring that down a little bit. But yeah, and we're still, one thing that's, happening for us, we're still, I think because of the strength of Exponential, our financials, our zero failure rate, we have a 100% success rate. We've never lost a store. Our mantra right now is, every one of these stores will reopen, but we still have loans in process, and we're still getting pre-approvals, and the SBA, our banks are still very favorable on Expo. So that's worth mentioning. Because of our strength, where I don't hear that consistently throughout for everyone out there, but we're certainly having that opportunity, which is good. And that helps us because, on one hand, it could be a little scary for someone going, oh boy, I hope there's money out there right now because of all this PPP stuff going on. On the other hand, we're looking at some of the cheapest interest rates, the cheapest money we've seen in 10 years. So you look at that combined with the opportunity in retail right now, being able to negotiate some favorable lease opportunities and the turnover with independents out there. It's I don't want to sound crazy here, but there's some real upside.
Yeah. And you say turnover of some independents. Are you seeing a increase in conversions?
Oh yeah. So for us, we were, again, very lucky. I've got a full real estate team, under Exponential. We've got 200 employees under the roof, and a good bite of those are in the real estate department. So we're already hearing from them that landlords are most certainly loosening up in terms of TIs, abatements, and rent abatements and things like that. We're able to actually pre-negotiate now, which is kind of we went back and renegotiated this when this all hit with our current franchisees. We went back to all of our REITs and negotiated deferrals and rental abatements for them, so they wouldn't have to pay rent during this period. But what we're doing now for current franchisees that are joining the system is there is kind of some concern that there could be a reoccurrence, although it doesn't seem to be happening in Georgia, the first state to reopen, which is great to see, with 3 weeks of declining COVID cases after reopening. But at the same time, it's a concern and a fear for folks. So we're pre-negotiating that in leases that if there is a reoccurrence, that they'll automatically defer right into a rent deferral, so we don't have to go back and try to get that later. So that's comforting for people coming in now, knowing, okay, worst case scenario, we're living it, but if it happens again, hey, I'm covered, so those things are nice.
And what about though on FranDev, actual conversions of mom and pops that are struggling, don't have the support, don't have the guidance, are just done with it, they're lost, you doing many actual
Oh, yeah.
conversions?
Sorry, but I didn't understand what you meant by conversion. Uh, our conversion, because, with franchise stores, as you know, we've got such strong brand standards. It's a very rare one that we'd be able to kind of reuse much of what's going on in there. It could reduce our TI build out substantially if it was, in a pretty, good position. But for the most part, we're going to have to do our branding and all that good stuff. What I was referring to, I mean, I'm hearing, and I don't wish this on anybody, of course, but I'm hearing in the independent sector, somewhere to the tune of, depending on the market, anywhere from 20 to 30% of these independent businesses are not going to be reopening, and so that's just major fallout. And so there are some opportunities there with those landlords that want to keep, their occupancies up and want to bring in a strong franchise player that they know, will be here for the next, 10 years and beyond, and won't go out during times like this.
And I thought it was fascinating, a really interesting niche when we were speaking back 8 or 10 months ago about you've got so many brands and numerous buyers will add, a 3-pack or maybe one of each of these 3, for instance. And landlords love the 6,000 square foot a whole lot more than they love the 1,800. And so you're able to negotiate like a TJ Maxx, like a bigger brand could negotiate, not only from the thousands of that you have at corporate, that's a negotiation piece in itself, but then the fact that, hey, we're bringing in a 5,000 or 6,000 square foot between 3 or 4 brands, rather than we're just bringing in an 1,800 square foot.
Absolutely. It's happening a lot now, and it's a really neat opportunity. And in fact, literally just this week, I had a call from a investor group that they own high rises in Manhattan in New York. Should probably be careful what I say here, but they have a good chunk, and they want to basically put all of our brands, into one of their buildings. And so we did a territory check to see, how many of them we could put in there. And so, we're going to be able to do that. And so that's happening a lot. As you mentioned, you got landlords years ago that were trying to create this synergy in their real estate and their property, with kind of almost a fitness row, if you will, kind of like a food court, where people would be able to come in and kind of participate in some of the other verticals. So now, these institutionalized landlords now know Expo, because we're basically a real estate company at this point. So they'll call us and say, hey, I've got, like you said, 6,000 square feet. I'd like to chop it up and put 3 of your brands in here. And away we go, and many times we already have a franchisee or multiple franchisees in that DMA that can go right into that. So that's huge for us on the real estate front, because, in retail, that's our ball game. It's real estate. So,
well, Lance, I know we're going a little long here, but this is such a unique way that you guys have approached this, with the strength of the backbone of Exponential. For the brands out there that do have multiple, brands, the franchisors that have multiple brands under one umbrella, how has this, and maybe it's too early to tell, but where are we at with the XPass, where one individual, one consumer can get one card and be able to utilize it at multiple brands under that big Zors umbrella? How's that working for you?
Oh, it's done. In fact, it was slated for a Q2 rollout. Obviously, we're going to delay that a little bit. We've got to have all of our stores online for it to make sense and be them be open, so if you will. So it's slated for really right now a third and possibly a fourth quarter rollout with it. But it's completely done in terms of the tech. So what part of our challenges we needed to get, because we bought like a Pure Bar brand, which was on a completely different CRM system. So we had to take 500 studios and move them all to a new CRM system, so we could get them all under the same system that really would go into this one XPass application on your mobile device or wherever you're logging on, and be able to access the verticals. But the tech is done. We invested millions of dollars in it, and we have tested it to a point where we know we already know our members like what we call snack and cheat. So the beauty of this is we don't lose them to another bar brand, or we don't lose them to another spin brand. They stay in the family. So it's a retention piece. And everybody, all tides rise because of it within the Expo family. But if you have kids, I know it's kind of like, I call it the Dave and Buster's theory, where, if you go in and you swipe your card and you get a bunch of points, if you play a few of the high ticket games, then you don't play too far on that card, and then you got to go reload. But if you play some of the lower demand games, then you can play a little bit more, right? So it's similar in that is that the XPass is based on a point system. And so it's not unlimited access for the member, but it gives them access based on this point system. It operates on almost the same technology as ClassPass. So say someone has a base membership at a Club Pilates, that's their home membership, and they do an add-on with their XPass, and let's say it sits in a $50, over and above in an escrow, that's going to be disseminated on a point system. So that'll give them access to the other verticals. So we keep them as a member. They may decide to add a Stretch Lab membership because they accessed that brand and loved it. But it's just a great tool. That was, I think, part of Anthony's original vision with this was, let's really build the best verticals in fitness, and let's put them together, and then let's allow our members to really enjoy all these different verticals. We know they're already going to 2 or 3, 4 sometimes verticals right now. Why not have them all in our family going, instead of going to 4 different, franchise stores?
When you told me about that almost a year ago, it just fascinated me, and I'll be honest, man. I had my doubts. I thought, how in the world? You just said you invested millions. I knew it would take millions to be able to put that together, and because you got 2,000-ish owners, and they all got to get compensated. When somebody from here goes to another brand over here, and it's a different owner, and where does the money come from, and how does it go across? Yeah. And that is one complicated system. And kudos to you for being able to put that all together.
Well, that's for the Harvard grads to put that together, but I know enough to be dangerous to tell you how it works, and I know that it's done and it's ready to roll out. In fact, I saw the tool; it's pretty sweet. People will be able to download it on their mobile phones. People will be able to buy it in Costco or Target or all major retailers here very soon. I think once we put a little bit of a delay on it when COVID-19 came out. We wanted to focus obviously all of our energies on supporting our franchisees during this time and not on a new initiative, like that. But it's ready to roll, and it's going to be neat because it's all going to tie together, that with the on-demand product, the XPass, and everything that we've going on with the footprint. And domestically, we've got something to the tune of just short of 4,000 licenses awarded. So once those all come online as well over the next kind of 12 to 18 months, it's a pretty substantial footprint in our country.
Well, you said something that any good franchisor would say, which is you're focusing on your current franchisees and helping them. Lance, as we wrap up, any final thoughts, any suggestions, advice, predictions for franchisors out there looking to navigate this new world we're in?
Oh, wow. In a humble, from a humble perspective, I would say, just what I've seen with Anthony and even with my team, we have had, in fact, I had a team call earlier this morning. I would just say, you've got to keep the positivity going there, and you've got to, keep information flowing, and you've got to, keep fighting. I think there's, Anthony likes to say there's those that have kind of curled up in a ball and just kind of closed the doors and to wait it out. And there are others that said, hey, we're gonna rise up right now, and we're gonna get in there and battle and be the best of ourselves right now and do what we can do. And so I think that's important. We want to, we try to be real with our people, but at the same time, one of the things, I'll give you just a quick example. Anthony didn't furlough one employee, and that's, you got 200 employees on that roof, and probably didn't need all of them to stay out, working during that period, but did not furlough one employee. And that doesn't look great for your P&L, when your royalties are down. But he wasn't worried about the P&L. He was worried about his people, and I think that says a lot about him as a leader, and saying that's the most important thing to me. I'm going to keep paying my employees, and we're going to keep supporting franchisees. And his mantra is, we're going to get past this, and we're going to look back, and we're not going to close one store. Meaning we're not going to have one that does not reopen. And he's very proud of that, and he'll do it, and we'll do it. And but yeah, I think everybody's battling. We're all kind of friends in this, if you will. And I'd say we just have to stay positive, keep sharing ideas, and we're going to get through this. And I do feel there are some silver linings here. I do feel the strong survive, and that we're going to be stronger on the other side of this. And there are good days to come.
Indeed, franchising stronger together. Mr. Lance Freeman, President of Franchise Development for all of Exponential Brands. Lance, thanks so much for being on the call today.
Red, it's been a pleasure. Great always seeing your smiling face. Thanks for the time.